I wanted to I wanted to talk about that and share some other people's stories about how they've taken risks and how they've realized some of their dreams. And you'll find that our two panelists today, that they're young, driven, indigenous people who have taken some great risks, and it's paid off for them in realizing their dream. And I wanted them to share their stories today. I'll share mine first, though, as I believe there's power in our stories. And for those of you I haven't met, I'm Wallapai and Navajo and Chinese. My background is I have my bachelor's and master's in computer science degree, and for the first half of my professional life, I was a computer scientist, and I believe that I wasn't really in touch with who I was as a person. I was more, I listened to exterior validations, and, my mom, counselors, everyone they told me, you're a smart person and there's a need for computer scientists, in the STEM careers. There's not a lot of us there at the table. So I could program, so I did it. And I had a very financially successful career as a programmer. I was a programmer for the National Security Agency and at IBM. And what I noticed in my 20s, though, was that I was living for my weekends. I was living for my hobbies. That pretty much my job, it's what paid the bills, but it wasn't like fulfilling in me. But I kept thinking like, well, maybe this is just how life is. But it was like this little, I don't know if any of you can relate, but it was always just this little grain of salt, like a little seed that was always in the back of my mind, no matter what I was doing, that seemed a little off to me, that I was living for my weekends. I was living for my hobbies. So maybe it's because as a kid, being told like you're the cream of the crop, and I thought that I should have more fulfillment in what I was doing, and I wasn't even thinking about impacting to the community. So, fast forward, I was in my early to mid 30s, I think, when I thought I had achieved my professional goal. I wanted to be and at the executive level. I was working for a large tribal organization. For the first time in my professional career, like money wasn't a problem in our organization. We had an awesome mission to help our tribal communities with life skills, but I still felt like not fulfilled. And there came a point, and I'm hoping that this may resonate with someone on this call. There came a point where I was at that fork in the road, and I could just see myself, like I'm going to be at the end of my career. If I stay in this career path, I'll be, I guess by mainstream societies, I'll be a success. I'll have lived a full life. But I felt I would have regret that I never pursued something for me and what I wanted to do. Or I could take the other fork in the road and me. And I had never, ever taken, like I never had quit a job without having another job in place and it being something that was in my mind better, a growth opportunity. And that was the first time in my life that I walked away from a very good job without having anything in place. And, it felt like I was at the edge of a cliff, and it's like, do I jump? Do I not jump? Do I jump? Do I not jump? And that was the first decision I made for me as, a 30-something-year-old Indigenous woman. And I jumped. I just knew I wanted to live, and I didn't feel like I was living, I was existing. And what that developed into was the birth of Tinhorn. I created my own consulting company, and I'm happy to say that this September will be our 10th anniversary, and that it's brought me a lot of fulfillment, and it's allowed me to live in ways that I never thought possible. I have an 8-year-old daughter, and one of my success metrics in my company is not to ever miss one of her milestones. And having my consulting business allows me to do that. I'm 2019 was a successful year, utilizing that as a success metric. So that got me thinking about other stories, other people. Maybe you're at that crossroads during this time about, how about I put it this way? So the world is all on pause right now. And there's nothing that says you have to go back to what was. So whatever may be your little seed that you've been thinking about, perhaps this is the time to take that risk. So with that, I would like to introduce our next panelist, and that is, we have two today. Just a moment. Okay, we have two panelists today. Elissa London. So what we'll do is we're going to have Brandon share his story of how he took risks and to realize his dream, and then we'll move on to Elissa. So Brandon Escamilla, he's from Mesa, Arizona, and he comes from a family with two little sisters. On his mother's side, he's Navajo, and on his father's side, he's also Navajo, Cherokee, and Mexican. And he graduated Red Mountain High School in 2015. And he went from there to BYU in Provo, Utah for a year. And he transferred and spent 2 years as a cadet at the United States Military Academy in West Point, New York. He's majoring in mechanical engineering, those STEM careers. And he just recently returned from serving 19 months as a full-time volunteer church missionary for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in Sydney, Australia. And he will return to finish his time at West Point in August of this year. On a personal note, is also on the call. Shout out to all the good moms out there. She was actually my mentee at ASU when she was majoring in computer information technology, I believe, at that time. So it's awesome to see things full circle and what's possible. So with that, Brandon, I would like to hand off the mic to you.
Thank you so much. So like April said, my name is Brandon Escamilla, and I just go to. And so this is me. This is my family. So I have both my parents and my two little sisters. And so I'm the oldest, and this is me. It's like April said, I graduated Red Mountain High School in 2015, and that's kind of where I started off my life in my journey. Throughout high school, my goal and my dream was to go and serve at West Point, really. Throughout high school, I worked in, my focus was always to attend the United States Military Academy. Like April said, I spent a year at BYU, Brigham Young University. Applying right out of high school, I didn't get into West Point right away. And so kind of my plans were a little bit different than I expected them to be. So I spent a year at BYU, and then while I was at BYU, I applied again, and I was fortunate enough to be able to get in a second time on the second go. And so for those of you who wonder what is the United States Military Academy? So the United States Military Academy is an officer academy or an officer school. It's a 4-year institution intended to help students prepare to serve as officers in the United States Army. They also have the United States Naval Academy for naval officers, and as well as the United States Air Force Academy for Air Force officers. And so I spent 2 years there I spent 2 years there after my 1 year at BYU. And this was a lifelong dream for me. Like growing up, I always loved reading war novels and always loved that aspect of military service. Like for me and my family, I have like most of us, we have military blood. And so like I have on the far left, I have my great grandpa. He served as a Marine during World War II. In the middle, my uncle, he served as a Marine as well. And then my grandpa on the right side, who was in the United States Army. And so growing up, I had that background of family service and really giving yourself to a greater cause. And at least for me, like being Navajo and Cherokee is something that I'm particularly proud of. I'm proud to be able to share that as my roots. And whenever I meet people or introduce myself, grandma always, mom and grandma always teach us to introduce ourselves in the proper way. And so like when I introduce myself in Navajo, I would say, yeah, it's Brandon Eskimi Yinshi, Katne Sunny Inshile, Cherokee Bushichi, Turechini Dashiche, Nakai Dashinale. And so that's who I am. That's where I come from. That's my clans and it's my family. And so if we're related, let me know and we can hook up. But yeah. And so I spent 2 years at the United States Military Academy. Is here where I majored in mechanical engineering and had some pretty life-changing experiences. Really going out and it's the military, and you go out and you learn life skills. You develop lifelong friendships like I had here, and really that's kind of where I learned to kind of who I was, or really kind of establish myself of who I wanted to be. I had experiences there that would that really kind of set me apart for what I wanted to do in my life. I'm grateful for my time there, and like there, I did military training. I had opportunities to travel abroad. On the picture on the left, I went to Morocco. I lived there for a month. While I was there, I studied engineering, but I also studied Arabic, and it was just something very unique and special that I was able to take part of. And then after my time at the academy, or after 2 years at the academy, I chose to go and leave and serve a 2-year mission. For those of you who don't know, I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and it's something that's encouraged for much of the youth to go off and give voluntary service. For the men, it's for 2 years, and for the women, it's for 1.5 years. And it's that time you go and dedicate to go serve somewhere in the world, to go and really help the community and really give of yourself. And this is something that is a part of who I am. And this is a part of like what I believe and I stand for, and something that's changed my life. And I just wanted to share that with someone else as well. And so in order to do this, I had to leave the academy. I had to leave West Point. And so completely exiting and everything. And for those who don't know, getting into the academy is something that's pretty difficult. You have a series of tests you have to do to apply, like physical tests, your academic scores, your medical scores, or medical tests. And you have interviews. You have to get a nomination from a senator or congressman. And so I interviewed, when I first applied, interviewed with like Jeff Flake and John McCain, or this roundabout, like the Arizona senators and congressmen from Sydney. And so since I completely left the academy in order to go and serve a mission, that meant that I would have to completely redo the process again after my mission to get back into the academy, which meant that I didn't have a secure spot to get back in. But this is something that I wanted to do. This is something that was deep inside me, and this is what I wanted to do. This is what I believe in. I wanted to share with others, and it's extremely important to me. So sacrificing my time at the academy was something that was worthwhile. And so while I was in Sydney, like I said, we go out for 1.5 years, 2 years. And in my instance, I spent 19 months there, and we just go out and help the community. We go and talk to people in the streets and the trains or the buses. And if they're interested to learn more about what we believe, then great. Then we share with them, we talk with them, we discuss. But if not, then we offer service. We offer it anyway. For me, like I love to go out and play ukulele or sing for people, or just brighten their day. That's part of what we believe, is just going out and helping people and making an impact. While I was there, I was also asked to learn Korean. And so when I was in Sydney, I spent a lot of my time learning Korean and learning the culture. And so I developed a great love for Korean food and Korean people. And so it was something that was challenging for me, since there wasn't a lot of programs or really any support behind it. So it was really all on my own to learn the language and really immerse myself as much as I can into it. After those experiences, after leaving Sydney, Australia, I left a part of me there, and I can honestly say that I love the people of Australia. I'm grateful for my time there, and learned a lot of life skills and a lot of life application, and really set who I wanted to be and who I wanted to become for the rest of my life while I was there. And so that's a little bit of of me and kind of my backstory, my story. And so, like April had said, I reapplied and I'm good to go back to the United States Military Academy this August. And so I'll go back and finish what I started there, and got two more years left, and we'll be graduating the year 2022. So, thank you.
Thank you for sharing a part of your experience, Brandon. I appreciate that. And we'll have some time at the end, or maybe the mid part after Elissa, to ask some questions of our speakers, or even to have discussion. So our next panelist who took risks to realize her dream is Elissa London, and she was crowned Miss Alaska USA 2017 on February 4th, 2017 at the Anchorage Performing Arts Center, and she immediately felt the excitement and responsibility that comes with becoming the first Tlingit to carry this prestigious title. She is not only a member of the Tlingit Nation, she is the appointed cultural ambassador for Sea Alaska Heritage Institute, tasked with being a representative for her people and showcasing the vitality of Tlingit, Haida, and Tsimshian culture. She is also a shareholder of the Alaska Native Regional Corporation, Sea Alaska and Village Corporation, and She Attica. On May 14, 2017, Elissa competed for the title of Miss USA 2017, and she was a top 10 finalist. And let me tell you, it was an amazing experience because that was my Mother's Day gift. I was in the audience and got to cheer on. I had to throw that in. With this accomplishment, she became the first representative of Alaska to play since 1990, and the first Alaska Native to ever place at this level. Her evening gown made waves by pushing the limits of a pageant gown by emulating a Tlingit robe displaying her clan crest designed by Preston Singletary. She is an entrepreneur, on-camera host, motivational speaker, and business owner. Elissa inspires women across Alaska and the country, and I'd say internationally too, to realize their own dreams of business ownership, and encourages them to look to entrepreneurship as a means to achieve independence and self-sufficiency. Through motivational speaking, she inspires youth to achieve higher education and to go after their goals no matter how big they are. A 2012 graduate of Stanford University, Elissa received her Bachelor of Arts degree in Comparative Studies in Race and Ethnicity. This 2011 Udall Scholar wrote her award-winning honors thesis on rural economic development in Southeast Alaska, and recognizes the applicability of her research on the topic of economic development in her own community to other parts of Indian country as well. She believes a strong education has been the key to her success and the opportunities she has had. After graduating from college, she worked at Microsoft as a partner marketing manager and traveled the world in this role, as well as presented in front of 16,000 people at their worldwide partner conference. In addition, she was elected and served on the board of Sea Alaska, her Alaska Native Corporation, as their board youth advisor in 2014. Having traveled to over 30 countries, Elissa uses her voice to bring people together by helping others understand the beauty of other cultures, not only in Alaska, but also around the world. As Miss Alaska USA, she had a three-pronged approach to her year of service, sharing her culture, motivating others to reach high levels of education, and inspiring others to pursue entrepreneurship. Elissa is the daughter of Debbie and Jay Tate London, of which her father is a practicing U.S. attorney and federal prosecutor in Washington State, specializing in tribal law. She has two sisters, Lacey and Ellie, and one brother, Kellen. So with that, I bring you Elissa. Would you please share how you took risks to realize some of your dreams?
Thank you. I was just scrolling through and seeing so many familiar names. Hi, Rob. Hi, Lupe. And thank you for reading my my bio. That happened over, all those things happened over a long period of time, but so it's always interesting to hear your bio read back to you. But so I was hoping for this to be more of a Q&A and with you, April, and that we could just chat about what pageants mean to us, and then also about courage. I sent some photos over to you that show the pageant experience, but I was hoping it'd be more conversational. So do you want to kick it off with one of the questions we prepared from yesterday?
Sure. So, Lisa, I believe you have those photos. Could you cue them up for us so we can have those shared as well during this time? So I was thinking about the whole idea of taking risks, and the first thing I thought of is, could you share a little bit, Alyssa, about what? Let's talk about your road to Miss Alaska. Can you talk about how was that taking a risk for you?
The idea to pursue pageants started when I was 18, and there was the Miss Seafair pageant in Seattle. I didn't grow up in Alaska. My dad did. But it was this root of an idea that I wanted to bring Native American culture and the vitality of the culture of Indigenous people to a national stage. And I just felt really drawn to pageantry. Doing pageants was an opportunity for me to get to know myself better. I'm a Libra. Sometimes when I read about Libra's personalities, we tend to like glitz and glamour and design and art and beauty. And I think that's one reason I liked pageants as a medium to express myself. But also I just saw it as a really cool platform to be able to talk about being Tlingit, talk about being mixed and Native American. And this top 10, so this is 5 of us in the top 10 at Miss USA. It was coined as the most diverse finalist group in Miss USA history, which I was really proud of, because I think that when we're growing up, we need to have people that we can look to that make us feel represented. And I really looked up to Ashley Collingbull, who became Mrs. Universe. I think it was 2015, but I'm not sure on the year exactly, but she's Cree from Canada. And so she was someone that when I started pursuing Miss Alaska, I reached out to, and I actually used the exact same evening gown designer as her. And so I viewed her as a mentor. And I really still hope that I get calls sooner rather than later of Native girls wanting to just have me mentor them in even an unofficial capacity so that they can see themselves on a big stage. When you accomplish something that at one point was just a figment of your imagination or a dream, it really helps you think that other things that come across your mind might be possible too, because what still strikes me when I look at these photos is there was a long period of time in my early 20s, because I was 27 there, I'm 30 now, my early 20s, when this was like the farthest fetched thing in my brain. I didn't think it was possible. And I catch myself still to this day when I'm dreaming of things, like some things that I'm pursuing right now. Like I want Journey of the Freckled Indian, my children's book, to land me on Good Morning America so I can talk about Indigenous culture today and how, even though many of us are mixed, we still need to really embrace and learn about our culture and heritage. So I'm envisioning that right now. Because of Miss USA, it makes me think that actually might happen.
Right.
Because this was something that okay, so my abs on the right there. There was a time in college when I believed that, okay, so Stanford has amazing food and I'm a foodie. There was a time when I believed that I could eat whatever I wanted as long as I just jogged outside for 30 minutes a day. And so with pageants, I know there's criticisms about the swimsuit portion of the competition, but for me, pageants taught me so much about my ability to have control over my body, whether it's how I look or how I feel in my mind based on what I eat and based on how much cardio I decide to do or strength training. It made me feel really strong. And I hope you can tell in this photo that I'm not like just skinny. I was really freaking strong. Like I could do
Mhm.
so many push-ups and pull-ups. And this was like, if I could sum up what I achieved at Miss USA, it was like a full test of like my emotional, physical, and mental abilities at the time. Like I was measuring my food just to see if I would, what that would do, like a bodybuilder, like, will that make this
Mm.
pop out? I was religiously meditating every day. And all of us girls in the top 10, what was cool is when we were backstage before we would all come out, it just, we didn't discuss it, but we all were meditating. And so I just realized that that
Huh.
was something that like people who are in a high pressure situation are like
Yes.
taught to do, is meditate. And so uh, yeah, to in my now with this experience, my opinion on achievement is it's achieving things is a very holistic, there's a very holistic approach to it. I think it involves uh, a level of physical and mental training that then comes through in your performance. So it wasn't just that I was exercising in the gym, it was the um, therapy that I was doing, it was the
Mhm.
self-love and affirmations, it was the things I was listening to, it was the um, and then yeah, it was also the pageant coaching, the people who I worked with who helped me with onstage question and interviewing backstage. So the glitz and glamour part that I said that I really enjoy about
Yes.
pageants, which April, I think you enjoy that part too, right?
Of course. Yeah.
So
What
fun.
I really like about pageants is, to me, there's like this difference between like native pageants and mainstream pageants, and I really never thought about the crossover because I hadn't really seen many examples of crossover. Um, what I've enjoyed about being in native pageants is that it really goes back to identity, and it gives you a reason to reaffirm those ties to your culture, your family, and to be able to be an ambassador and represent not only yourself but to see collectively how we're connected, your families, our tribes. And so when I first read about you, because I did read about you before meeting you at Res, the first thing I thought about was representation matters, because we can't, I don't believe we can dream about something until we've like seen it. And
Mhm.
so where I'm at in my life is, I'm probably maybe at the, I don't know, I guess I'm middle-aged now. But I have, an 8-year-old daughter. And so I think about when I was her age, what did I see in beauty and identity, and what was then shown to me was, Barbie. It was the Miss America pageant with my grandma, watching those things. And so I like to think at that, 2017, that my daughter, seeing on regular CBS TV, she's seeing someone like her who is running in this pageant. And that to me is disrupting perceptions about us. And that's our vision, at Tinhorn, is to disrupt all perceptions of this, about us as Indigenous people, and kind of having a why not attitude. And that's why I became a champion from afar without ever knowing who you were, because you were disrupting the images. And I liked also too that, you're a graduate of Stanford. So I like that disruption, like, okay, you can only be, beautiful, but not smart. Or if you're smart, you're not beautiful. And I loved all of the,
Thank
all
you.
of how it was in you. And so that my daughter could see that it's not only a possibility for her, but to like keep moving forward. Because I think that's what we're always doing, right? Is thriving and evolving and going. So you opened up this door, but what will be next for like my daughter's generation? So
Makes me excited.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, that reveal was amazing.
Thanks.
I wish we had the video of it.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's on YouTube. I don't even have like a copy of it. I always have to get it off YouTube. Crazy. Um, yeah, so these are some of the backstage photos. That's my friend Julie, Miss Hawaii. I've actually have hung out a few times since I visited her in Hawaii. It was really fun having your hair and makeup done most days at the
Mm-hmm.
pageant. Yeah. Oh, and then was cool, like the different sponsors that would send things from Alaska. That was these earrings made of salmon skin. And she sent enough that actually I walked around everywhere backstage and gave all the girls one, including like former Miss USAs and Miss Universes that were back there. I tried giving one to like, so they kept like Ashley Graham and all of the, like the really famous people like away from us. But I was trying to give them presents too. Yeah.
Well, I've seen you in action. I know you're very determined, so I'm surprised they kept you, that the security must have been very tight.
Oh, it was so tight. Every one of us had a security guard, and that was an interesting experience, but mine was cool, so I appreciated it. And yeah, like that's my only experience with that kind of I don't know, level of attention or scrutiny. And I would say you appreciate security guards. I feel for people that have to live with that all the time. So my children's book, well, first in the background is my grandpa Ernie. He just passed away in October, and so now this book is a tribute to him. And we were really close. I don't know if you go through life, sometimes you just have a connection with certain people that you can't really explain, and that was just one of those things. We could like sit next to each other for like long periods of time, just like holding each other's hands and feel like we were having a big conversation. But so that book is, he always called me his freckled Indian. I have a lot of freckles on my face, and we would have these discussions when I was growing up about identity and like the fact that who you are and where you come from is really important, and to know, and how that strengthens your sense of belonging and just like position in the world. Like knowing what you're brought on earth to do. That's another reason why knowing who you are and where you come from can be important. On the left side of the cover communicates that, I grew up in a middle-class suburban existence in Seattle, and on that playground was in like second grade is when I first started having these realizations that people might not always, based on stereotypes or perceptions, they might not really understand who you are. And so the beginning of the book is based on a real experience of actually my parents and I doing a presentation for show and tell in second grade, where we are talking about the creation story of Click It People, which is the Raven Box of Daylight. And then that kicks off then the now fictional part of the story, which is going to Southeast Alaska, which, I mean, I have gone to Southeast Alaska plenty of times, but just the rest of the story is like a fictional and mythological, and this like experience with grandpa showing Freckles, who she is and who she comes from. And then she has experience with killer whale down there in the water. And that's the same killer whale that was on my Miss USA gown done by Preston Singletary. And then other pages in this book are also illustrated by Preston, and then also the lead illustrator, Monica, who's Native or Potawatomi, Black and white, and Preston's Tlingit and Filipino. And so we all have this like mixed native background. So we all feel really connected to the book. And we're just hoping that when people read it, that to their children and like as school teachers read it to kids, that it causes them to think about their culture and heritage, ask questions about it to their parents and grandparents, but then also just feel more connected to, every aspect that makes them who they are. So really proud of the book and excited for it to come out in the fall.
We'll definitely get it for our home and start that discussion, because my daughter's actually a second grader as well, Elissa, and for this school year is the first time I've heard her talk about color.
Yes.
And so that's an interesting concept. And she's been asking, because we're also part Chinese, and so she's like, I'm from China, but I thought you said I'm Wallapai, and so that whole idea of identity has become a topic in our household. So I I mean, I am looking at the time, and as you know, we ebb and flow here on Eat, Learn, and Grow with Tinhorn. A big part of what we're doing is to create connections and community. So I would like to open up this time for discussion to everybody who's joined the call. So you've heard a little bit about Brandon's story about how, you know, his dream was to attend West Point, and he had talked about how he didn't initially get in, and yet he, you know, stayed focused, persevered, and he got in on a second attempt. And you know, I think that takes courage, that to continue to pursue your dream when you hit an obstacle. You know, you've heard of Elissa's journey when she was running for Miss Alaska and Miss USA, and really being, I heard themes of like discipline. I've heard themes of meditation. So we're all here together. You know, there was something that compelled you to join this discussion about taking risks and about dreams. So I'm going to open it up. You can ask your questions on the chat function if you're not comfortable or technology doesn't allow you to do video. And if you also have another question, go ahead and unmute yourself. And if you could throw your video on, that would be fantastic. So who would like to ask a question from one of our panelists or myself?
April? I have a question.
Sure. Is this Marty?
Yes, it is. Good to see you again.
Good to see you too. Ask away, Marty.
All right. I was curious if Brandon has current entrepreneurial pursuits, or what's his current status there? And then I'd like to hear more about Elissa's business pursuits at this time.
Yeah, so I guess for me, like I don't have any personal entrepreneurial pursuits, but rather just go forward with the school. I'll go and finish up my uni education, and with mechanical engineering, hopefully might change it, but go the Army route for a bit. I might want to get into like international relations, or like there's a job that I like to get in working with the embassy, and I learned Korean, so I'd love to be able to apply that, and maybe if I learn some other languages, get into that, just that world affairs of cooperation.
Awesome.
So Freckles is going to have a doll that goes along with her. I've been prototyping her with Alaska 3D printing here in Anchorage. And so you can we've been doing with so the 3D printing is really rough right now, but it's allowing us to actually know what the injection mold is going to look like. And then the robe is from the children's book. And so we're doing the paper so that we can actually get the fabric to be the right size and have that printed. But when I did the gown reveal at Miss USA, it was it was like looked like this on even though we don't have a photo of it on this Zoom call, but yeah, it had the killer whales on it, and then I opened it up and it dropped down and became my killer whale tail of my dress, or the and so it dragged behind me on stage, which is cool. But then I wanted to make that, I just think there's a lack of diversity in the doll market, and I've substantiated that with quite a bit of research. And so the children's book and the doll combination is the first one of the series that I envision doing, and I'm cool to see part of telling the stories going forward. But it's going to the future stories and dolls will be about other people and their journey with identity. And so we started to identify a short list of who we'll do next. But yeah, that's one aspect, and then that's all through my brand Culture Story, which is about showcasing the vitality of Indigenous cultures, the interconnectedness of all of our knowledge, and then inspiring people to learn more about their identity based on the stories of others. And so these are just different modalities in which I'm approaching that: the dolls, the books, and also the Culture Story content, which is now pivoting because we are all effectively in social distancing quarantine, so I can't really video people in person, but that is something that we're figuring out how to do remotely. So yeah, if you follow Culture Story, you can whether it's my culturestory.co or Culture Story on Facebook, then that's where I post updates on my entrepreneurial adventures. So thank you for asking.
Well, that was my question, but I do have a comment.
Okay.
I'm a guy that's nearly 63 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I have 3 daughters. My baby daughter's older than Elissa, you. So it tells me I'm old. But most of my dreams now revolve around my girls and my grandkids coming on. And I am so inspired by you two in your presentation today and what you're all about and your confidence and your fearlessness. I just will be your biggest cheerleaders if the opportunity comes up. You guys you're inspiring. I appreciate both of you very much. It's a pleasure to be here today.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
I believe we have another question from the chat. So this is from Rob, and he asks, given that there is an issue of low self-esteem in Indian country, what or who inspired you to buck this trend and take a change to follow your dreams? Brandon, would you like to go first?
Yeah. So I guess in regards to low self-esteem among like the Native American community, for me, what I wanted to do, pursue my life and my career and everything is I think in life, there's a lot of things to worry and complain about, and there's a lot of reasons for why we don't do something, or there's a lot of excuses why we can maybe settle with something normal, something basic. But for me, I wanted to really go out and make a name for myself. I have a lot of family and I have a lot of culture and history. And there's a lot of family that have really done a lot for me, that have really got me to where I was and put me in a place to be able to go on and make something of myself. And while I pursue my own desires and my own dreams and everything, a lot of it is inspired by those that have sacrificed a lot to get me to where I am now. And I really, as far as really going out and showing people what we as Indigenous, as Native American people can do, that really to really get beyond push beyond any stereotypes or anything, but really go out and apply yourself and work hard and be persistent and diligent and maybe stubborn with your dreams, because that's what it takes. I'm not perfect, but the things that I've done to get to achieve what I want to has been through persistence and diligence and dreaming a bit, maybe believing in fairy tales a bit, a lot of things that, I don't think it's wrong to do so. If we can, we can do incredible things if we apply ourselves. So
I agree, Brandon. I love fairy tales too, to this day. And how about you, Elissa?
Definitely agree with you on persistence there. I definitely didn't become Miss Alaska on my first pageant. Okay, self-esteem is, for me, it's and Rob Jacobs, you know this, it's actually a complete work in progress throughout my whole life. That might be confusing to people when you had my bio read, how could this woman have a journey with self-esteem? But it's just a thing that I have to always push through, and maybe that's very relatable, or maybe that's confusing. And I don't know where that little self-doubt voice comes from, but that's why I have to do a lot of self-development and really take care of my body and my mind, because that's how I stay in control of my thoughts. You can't let your thoughts control you. And that might be why when I initially have an idea or a dream, doesn't happen super quickly, because it then becomes pursuing that dream is also a process of pushing through all of my self-doubt and, for lack of a better word, bullshit that it's oddly self-inflicted. And but I end up pulling it off, and I have faith in myself, but I just don't want to sugarcoat it and say that I don't struggle with it, because I think it's just one of those little things that sit on the one side of my shoulder, and I acknowledge it. And then I have the other side that has a vision for all of the great things that I will do and be and achieve. And I am happy to say that with my bio, like that if I can even, when I'm not seeing myself like that, I can read back and like, that woman has achieved these things. That's who you are. But it's a, yeah, that's my one part of being Elissa London is dealing with that side of my shoulder and the other side. Yeah.
I appreciate and acknowledge that you're sharing that with us, Elissa, because that resonates with me as well as like a 45-year-old Wallapai woman, is that, we don't talk a lot about that with the healing, where it all really starts perhaps with healing of ourselves, like the negative self-talk or whatever's been our childhood experience and part of our foundation. Like, that has to be addressed, because no matter where we go, and this comes from someone who's lived like in Frankfurt, Germany and all over the world, is that no matter where I went, like there I was, like to the next better job or the next better adventure. And it was like, oh shoot, I still have me and my thoughts. So until like I started my healing journey, I would say that that really has impacted just for me, my wellness. And I think that's amazing that you have that awareness at a young age. But I think all of us can start now, day one. We can choose to have a different day, a different destiny, I suppose. So thank you for being vulnerable and sharing that, Elissa.
Mm-hmm.
And we have another question from Laree, and she asks the panelists, do you have a morning routine to start your day?
Yes, I do. I have coffee or tea, and I have a yoga mat, and I do yoga with Adrian, and then I do Deepak Chopra 10 to 12-minute meditation, and I read The Hustle, which is this daily distilled business newsletter that goes out on email, and it talks about like world news and everything you would hear if I watch CNN, but it does it from a business perspective, which is compelling to me. So that's my morning routine.
The Hustle?
The Hustle.
I'm gonna try reading that myself. Thank you.
I used to read The Skim, but I just like The Hustle better now.
I like the name better. How about you, Brandon? Do you have any morning routines?
So this is where I'm guilty. I haven't been the best, and my family can attest to that. But when I was in Sydney, like they worked on getting us like on a morning schedule. So we do is wake up, get started. We go do our exercises in the morning, go running or push-ups, sit-ups, or whatever we do for our exercises, and then we come back, get showered up, breakfast. And we do like our studies. So like when I was in my mission, we obviously studied like the scriptures and religious texts, and so like we did that just to kind of get ready, kind of like I guess like reading The Hustle, but reading, wake up, exercise, do a little bit of study, a little bit of meditate, self-reflection, prepare yourself for the day, plan out what you're going to do for the day, and then step out the door and go and do it. And I noticed that like morning routine is awesome. Like I know I haven't been doing it since I've been back, since it's just weird. But like when I was in Sydney, and that was something that was really incredible. Like if you don't have that morning routine, then everything kind of falls apart. If you rush the morning routine, it doesn't really work. But if you can get like a good morning routine and like kind of what you want to accomplish, then days just seem to work out and things flowed.
Thanks, Brandon. And I would like to ask the panelists if there were any tips you could give us when we're pursuing our dreams, to have that courage to pursue it, because I think it's easier said than done to actually pursue your dreams. I think if it was easy, all of us would have accomplished our dreams. We all hit an obstacle. And what advice can you share with us that has worked for you in like moving through that obstacle to realize your dream? Brandon?
Yeah, that's what
Okay.
I guess in regards to tips, so I liked what was talked about earlier in regards to self-esteem and I guess the thought that came to my head was I guess understanding your identity, like something that like when I joined Exercise was who you are, like and what we believe, like we're all sons and daughters of God, that we all have potential to go on and be incredible, to really go on and do incredible things, that we come from a noble birthright. We, really like, and I think that principle of understanding like your worth and your identity is something that's really crucial and important, because when times get hard, because I guess, I don't know, I guess when you're pursuing what you want to do and what you want to achieve, it gets hard. There are times when it doesn't work out, when you hit failure. I've definitely had failures while I've been doing it, while I've been at West Point, a lot of failure. I think it's understanding who you are and what your worth is, and not settling for anything less.
Thank you, Brandon. Elissa?
When I'm pursuing a dream, like I said, it's challenging. I have to continually challenge that voice of self-doubt. So how I have figured out how to message that to myself is that these ideas that we come into our brain, that we define as dreams, are messages from the universe, whether you define that as the voice of God or your inner voice, however you want to define it. I've started to really have a lot of faith in what I feel drawn to and what that voice is saying, because when I have followed it, really cool things have happened. When I don't follow it, not so much. And so when I remember that this idea or vision is placed on my heart and my mind for a reason larger than myself, then I just feel like a steward of it. And it feels a lot less about me and more about me doing an act of service for others and for humanity. And when you don't make it about yourself, it's a lot easier to not let that negative voice deter you. And it's a lot easier to stay the course. And how it's been explained to me is that each of us humans are a part of this like larger puzzle piece of humanity. Some puzzle pieces are really huge, some pieces are really small, but they're all essential, because you hate when you miss a puzzle piece, the puzzle's not done. So it's essential that you listen to those voices and pursue those dreams, because otherwise that puzzle piece will not be there and the puzzle won't be completed. Therefore, humanity won't move towards what we're all trying to achieve on a larger basis. So that's my philosophy that helps me move towards dreams when and stay the course, that I hope maybe can help some of you stay the course towards your dreams, that you have those dreams for a reason. They're not just in your head randomly.
Thank you, Elissa and Brandon. I believe we have time for one more question. Would anyone like to utilize this time and ask a question? It can be to the whole group too.
I actually have a question.
Hi, Valerie.
Hi. I wanted to ask both of you if you guys ever had a mentor. Yes and no. And if no, why not? And if you did, who and how did you choose a mentor to help you?
I think for me in my life, I don't think I've had like one set mentor, but I've had, I guess, multiple mentors throughout my life, like in different aspects of my life, whether it's like academically or physically or spiritually or in other aspects. I would have different mentors that would kind of help me along the way. I guess in regards to choosing those mentors, it was always maybe someone that I look up to, someone that has fits a I guess a picture or description of what I want to get to or what I want to achieve. Like if you want to become like the strongest person in the world, you look at maybe the strongest person in the world, you look at them, and or you find someone that's pretty strong in your eyes and is on the right track, and you talk with them, and I think obviously important finding someone that's trustworthy and you can rely on, and yeah.
Thank you, Brandon.
Building on my philosophy of feeling like we are stewards of what we're being called to pursue. I kind of feel that our lives are this journey where we're each trying to level up towards like a higher version of ourselves that is um, a little step farther than we were yesterday, whether that's from an emotional standpoint or with a physical goal that we see tangibly in our reality. So the way I think about that is if I had one mentor my whole life, then that means I didn't really achieve that one ring of achievement or that level. So I end up having different mentors for whatever level in my own soul's journey that I'm trying to attain. And I think mentors come to me right when I need them. I kind of attract that person that I need at that time in my life, and they might show back up in my reality years later. Like, so someone on this call, Rob Jacobs, his is it your aunt or your cousin? Anyways, Jackie Jacobs in Seattle. She was the first. She's Lummi from I think South Carolina, and she happened to be in Seattle. And when I wanted to start knowing about pageants when I was 18, she took me under her wing because she did pageants, when she was younger. And then we didn't really talk after those first few Miss America pageants that she helped me with. But then when I was at Miss USA and about to go on stage, she gave me a call and checked in on me and gave me some words of encouragement and advice. And so that's just an example of like a mentor that you might spend a lot of time with them at one point, but then they come back later on, right when you need them, and then they might not be in your reality. So I just think that when you have a clear vision of what you're trying to attract, then the right mentor comes at that time, and they come and go throughout your life.
Thank you. I think that's very helpful because I feel like sometimes it's a little bit hard for me at times when I try to find a mentor. But then I find that in another area, somebody pops up. So I think it's just maybe my own limitation or my idea of having that one mentor through that whole time. But really, it shouldn't be like what you were saying. So thanks for that. That was actually pretty cool.
I think there's a lot of pressure. I actually feel pressure to have one mentor. And some people ask, like, who are your mentors? And I'm like, you should have so-and-so. And I was like, that's a lot of pressure on a relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm glad that helped. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And if we could have from the panelists, like just maybe a one quick sentence answer or your views on this. We have another question about what do you do when procrastination just seems to take over and a day turns into a week?
This really resonates with me right now.
That's why it was attracted to you. Brandon, would you like to go?
You always go first into this dynamic.
Okay, all right. I guess in regards to procrastination, I don't know. I'm definitely a procrastinator. My family can attest to that. But I think it's, I don't know, something I learned when I was in Sydney was a lot about planning. When you have your dream and you have your plans, like just make those plans and try to stick to it as best as you can. And if not, recognize that you are procrastinating, and then really try to snap out of it as best as you can and make plans again. Just keep trying.
Thank you,
I watched a
Brandon.
TED Talk on this 2 nights ago. So, because I was struggling with it because of quarantine, because they're like all of the dates that were on my calendar for like April, May, June don't seem to matter anymore. So I was like, okay, I can't be motivated by deadlines really, except for some grant deadlines, but that's a different story. So and April, I can send you the link to the TED Talk if you want to send it out to the group.
Yeah,
but the gist of it was that you have to get like all of the ideas and things that you want to achieve like down on paper. For me, it's this sticky note thing, and I just keep, every time I just put them on this thing. And then the ones over here are the ones that I that make it from this side to here are the ones that I'm going to focus on this week. And then this one is the one I'm focusing on this day. I think I'm going to level up and have a color-coded system next. But this is what I've been finding has been working for me. And then they also said that you should think about like to-dos and like tasks towards your dreams as a funnel. And so you have like, you take it all in, it all comes on the top of the funnel. And then like, as it gets down, you'd be like, well, is this really going to get me there? And then it kind of like some things get demoted, and maybe they'll become like those lingering to-do items that if they're still, you still think they're relevant in a few weeks or even a few months, then you might end up doing them. But some of them might just even like fall off the map, or in this case, the poster board. And that's a strategy for just getting it down to the 2 or 3 tasks that you can reasonably accomplish in the day. Because if you're also trying to have a family, I don't, but like I would like one day. If you're like, but for me, it's like if you also want to hang out with your friends, or like, because it's beautiful outside, or go and have an exercise routine, you can't like do all of these things in one day. So you have to like figure out what those are. So I hope that helps.
Yeah, great question and great tips, Brandon and Elissa, about procrastination. And Lisa will send that out in the follow-up email when we get the TED Talk link. And I just wanted to, on behalf of everybody, thank you, Brandon and Elissa, for sharing your stories with us today, because I don't know about everyone else on the call, but for the past hour, I didn't feel like I was, at home. I felt engrossed in your stories, and it helped, at least for me, to motivate and inspire me, as kind of like a proud auntie, because that's how I think of you all, is that you being younger Indigenous folks, these are the stories I live for. I love hearing about other Indigenous young adults making impact in our community at such a young age, because unfortunately we tend to hear about the negative stories in your peer group. But I know that you guys aren't unicorns. You're not the only ones. There's others like you. There's others amongst all of us. And that re-inspires and re-motivates me. And I hope everyone in this call that you also feel maybe a little fire lit under your butt like I do. And think like, all right, come on, like it's we can do this. It's all good. And I also want to just, Misty, if you can take your turn your video on, because we actually have Brandon's mother on the call. And being a mom, I also feel when I meet incredible people that I may not know their parents, but I know I have a good idea of who they are, because your values and your teachings resonate through your son, just like with your parents, Elissa. So I just wanted to acknowledge you. And if you had anything you wanted to say about raising someone who's a risk taker for other parents, I'd love to hear that.
Thank you, April, for really being my mentor. And I think I've told you this time and time again. I'm sorry, I'm grocery shopping and listening at the same time. So I think being a mother is multitasking, and also being your children's #1 cheerleader. And in this aspect, I think that just being a mother in general, you wear multiple hats, and just being able to sacrifice what you have and what you could have had for your family and your children. And that's really what's most important to me. I love my children, I love my family, I love my people, I love my friends. People that make me who I am are also mothers and fathers who have shown me the way. And I seriously hold a lot of respect to my mom and my grandmother. I must admit, and to this day, she's still alive, and she's in her high 90s and still very active. So I'm happy to say that in our family, generations, we have 5 generations in our family. So it's just really neat to see the longevity of our people in general. But you know what? Thank you, April, for just being my friend, being someone who I can talk to on occasion. And sometimes you do bring me grounded where I need to come back. And I really do look up to you. I think you've always been an inspiration to me, and thank you so much for allowing us to be part of your show today. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Misty. And with that, thank you again, Brandon and Elissa, for sharing how you've taken risks to pursue your dreams. So we have some tips, everybody, and maybe some homework. Go ahead and mark your calendars for next Friday at noon, as we're going to have 2 Indigenous social workers, and we haven't fleshed out the details, but it's going to be around mental health. As you may know, May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and I liked what someone said. They said COVID-19 may affect the body, but we're already experiencing effects in our minds without even being COVID-19 positive. So we're going to be fleshing out the details, but it'll be about mental health on our next episode. And with that, enjoy the rest of your Friday. Have a good one.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank